Respect is rarely given because of titles, wealth, or loud words. It is given because people instinctively recognize strength in someone who understands themselves. The first impression you create is not built by what you say. It is built by what your presence communicates before your mouth ever opens. Human beings make judgments within seconds, often without realizing it. They notice your posture, your pace, your eye contact, your emotional stability, and whether you appear to seek approval or offer certainty. Robert Greene often explains that power begins with perception. Before anyone measures your intelligence, they measure your confidence. Before they evaluate your ideas, they evaluate your character. This is why respect begins long before a conversation truly starts. Most people unknowingly destroy their own image by trying too hard to be liked. They smile excessively, apologize unnecessarily, explain themselves without being asked, and rush to fill every silence with words. They believe kindness alone will earn admiration, but admiration and respect are not the same. People appreciate kindness, but they respect individuals who demonstrate self-control, purpose, and dignity. The moment others sense desperation for validation, they unconsciously place you in a lower position. Approval seeking communicates dependence, and dependence rarely inspires respect. Walk into every room as though you already belong there. This does not mean arrogance. It means accepting your own worth before expecting anyone else to recognize it. When you enter with calm movement, steady breathing, and relaxed confidence, people naturally become curious about you. Confidence without aggression creates psychological influence because it suggests that your identity is not controlled by the opinions of others. Those who are secure do not feel the need to advertise themselves. Their composure becomes their introduction. Your body language speaks louder than your words. Stand upright without appearing stiff. Maintain natural eye contact instead of constantly looking away. Avoid restless movements that reveal nervousness. Every unnecessary gesture tells a story about your emotional state. Calm movements communicate certainty. Slow movements communicate control. Even the way you sit, shake hands, or pause before answering shapes the image people create in their minds. Respect often begins through these silent signals, long before logic enters the conversation. Another mistake people make is revealing too much too quickly. There is power in allowing others to discover you gradually. Mystery creates value because people naturally invest more attention in what they cannot immediately understand. If you tell everyone your plans, fears, weaknesses, and ambitions during the first conversation, you remove the opportunity for curiosity to grow. Strategic restraint is not dishonesty, it is discipline. Powerful individuals understand that information is a resource, and resources should be managed wisely. The tone of your voice carries equal importance. Speak clearly and deliberately instead of rushing through sentences. A rushed voice often reveals insecurity or anxiety. A calm voice suggests confidence because it tells people that you are comfortable with silence and do not fear being interrupted. Those who command respect rarely compete to speak the most. Instead, they choose their words carefully, knowing that fewer meaningful words create more impact than endless explanations. Listening is another overlooked source of respect. Most individuals enter conversations focused on impressing others. They wait impatiently for their turn to speak rather than genuinely listening. Ironically, the people who earn the deepest respect are often those who observe first. They notice emotions behind words, hidden motivations, and patterns in behavior. This awareness allows them to respond thoughtfully instead of react impulsively. People naturally trust someone who makes them feel heard, without appearing eager to dominate the discussion. Your appearance also sends psychological signals. You do not need expensive clothing to command respect, but you should appear intentional. Cleanliness, proper grooming, and clothing that fits well communicate self-respect. When you respect yourself, others receive an unconscious message that you expect respect in return. Neglecting your appearance often suggests neglect in other areas of life. Every visible detail contributes to the story people create about your discipline and standards. Perhaps the greatest secret is emotional independence. When criticism immediately changes your mood, when compliments determine your confidence, or when rejection destroys your composure, people realize your emotions are controlled externally. True respect belongs to those who remain balanced regardless of praise or criticism. Emotional stability signals inner strength. It tells people that your identity is built on principles rather than temporary opinions. Respect is never demanded successfully. The louder someone insists on being respected, the more obvious their insecurity becomes. Genuine respect is earned through consistency. Every action should reinforce the same message. You know your values, you protect your standards, you control your emotions, and you refuse to compromise your dignity for acceptance. Over time, this consistency becomes your reputation, and reputation becomes silent authority. The greatest lesson is simple yet difficult to master. Before expecting the world to respect you, become the kind of person whose habits, discipline, confidence, and self-control naturally deserve it. When your actions consistently reflect inner strength, people begin respecting you almost instantly, not because you force them to, but because human psychology recognizes authentic confidence long before it recognizes spoken words. The greatest test of your character is not how you behave when life is calm, but how you respond when pressure suddenly appears. Anyone can appear confident when everything goes according to plan. Anyone can seem intelligent when surrounded by people who agree with them. Real respect, however, is earned in moments of uncertainty, conflict, criticism, and emotional tension. Human psychology pays close attention to these moments because they reveal what words often hide. Robert Greene frequently emphasizes that power belongs to those who govern themselves before attempting to influence others. The individual who cannot control emotions becomes predictable, and predictability is a weakness that others instinctively recognize. Most people lose respect because they allow emotions to make decisions for them. A single insult ruins their day. One disagreement causes them to become defensive. A minor setback makes them question their abilities. They react immediately without considering the consequences. In doing so, they surrender control of themselves to the people and circumstances around them. Every emotional reaction silently communicates that someone else has the power to control your inner state. The moment another person realizes they can manipulate your emotions, they begin to lose respect for you, whether consciously or unconsciously. Emotional control does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means choosing your response instead of allowing your feelings to choose it for you. There is an enormous difference between experiencing anger and acting out of anger. Every human being feels frustration, disappointment, fear, and irritation. The respected individual simply refuses to let those emotions dictate behavior. Instead of reacting impulsively, they create space between the event and their response. That brief moment of pause is where true power exists. Silence is one of the strongest demonstrations of emotional discipline. When someone insults you, they often expect immediate retaliation. They anticipate that you will become defensive, raise your voice, or try desperately to prove yourself. By remaining calm, you interrupt their expectations. Your silence forces them to question their own behavior while preserving your dignity. This does not mean accepting disrespect indefinitely. It means refusing to reward provocation with emotional chaos. Strategic silence often creates greater psychological impact than endless arguments. Pressure also reveals the quality of your decision-making. During stressful situations, most people become impatient. They rush to solve problems simply to escape discomfort. Unfortunately, rushed decisions frequently create larger problems. The individual who commands respect slows down instead of speeding up. They gather information, observe carefully, and act with purpose. Calm thinking during moments of uncertainty signals leadership because it demonstrates confidence in one's ability to navigate difficulty without panic. One of the fastest ways to lose respect is through emotional inconsistency. If your mood changes dramatically depending on external circumstances, people begin to see you as unreliable. One day you are optimistic and energetic. The next day you become distant and negative because something minor happened. Others never know which version of you they will encounter. Consistency creates trust, and trust creates respect. When people know that you remain composed regardless of temporary challenges, they naturally view you as dependable. Criticism provides another powerful opportunity to display emotional mastery. Most individuals interpret criticism as a personal attack. Their immediate instinct is to defend themselves or attack the other person in return. Yet emotionally disciplined people understand that criticism contains information. Some of it may be unfair, but some of it may reveal valuable lessons. Instead of reacting emotionally, they evaluate it objectively. If the criticism is useful, they improve. If it is meaningless, they simply move forward without wasting energy. This balanced approach demonstrates maturity that others quietly admire. Another essential principle is refusing to compete emotionally with difficult people. Manipulative individuals often seek emotional reactions because reactions give them influence. They provoke, exaggerate, interrupt, or criticize in order to pull you into their emotional world. The moment you match their anger with your own, they have succeeded. Emotional discipline means refusing to fight on terms chosen by someone else. You maintain your standards regardless of their behavior. This independence frustrates manipulators because they cannot predict or control your responses. Confidence grows every time you successfully master your emotions. Each situation where you choose patience over impulsiveness strengthens your identity. You begin trusting yourself, because you know that no matter what happens externally, your internal stability remains intact. This confidence becomes visible to others, even if they cannot explain why. They simply sense that you are difficult to intimidate because your emotions are not easily controlled. True leadership is impossible without emotional discipline. People naturally look toward the calmest person during moments of uncertainty. While everyone else reacts with panic, blame, or fear, the emotionally controlled individual becomes a source of stability. Others begin following their example because calmness creates psychological safety. Respect grows not through dramatic displays of strength, but through quiet demonstrations of self-mastery. The person who remains composed under pressure communicates a powerful message without speaking many words. No external force is strong enough to govern the mind that has already learned to govern itself. One of the greatest misunderstandings about respect is the belief that it comes from constantly pleasing other people. Many individuals spend years trying to avoid conflict, saying yes to every request, apologizing for things that require no apology, and sacrificing their own needs in the hope of earning admiration. At first, this behavior may attract appreciation because people enjoy receiving favors and cooperation. However, appreciation should never be confused with respect. Respect grows when people recognize that you have standards, principles, and boundaries that cannot be easily manipulated. Robert Greene often suggests that power begins with self-possession. The moment you become dependent on approval, you quietly surrender your authority to those whose opinions you fear. Boundaries are invisible lines that define what you will accept and what you will not. They communicate your values without requiring lengthy explanations. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, is influenced by these limits. When boundaries are weak, people naturally test them. Some do so intentionally, while others simply respond to what your behavior allows. Human psychology constantly observes where limits exist. If someone realizes there are no consequences for disrespect, interruptions, broken promises, or unreasonable demands, those behaviors usually increase over time. This is not always because people are cruel. It is because human beings naturally adapt to the standards that others establish. Many people fear setting boundaries because they worry about disappointing others. They imagine that saying no will make them appear selfish, arrogant, or difficult. In reality, saying yes to everything often creates the opposite effect. Instead of appearing generous, you become predictable. Instead of appearing kind, you become available at all times. Instead of inspiring admiration, you invite expectation. People begin assuming your time, energy, and attention belong to them. Over time, this expectation slowly replaces gratitude. What was once appreciated becomes taken for granted. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful psychological skills a person can develop. A respectful refusal demonstrates that your decisions are guided by priorities rather than pressure. You do not need long explanations or elaborate excuses. Excessive justification often reveals guilt or fear of rejection. A calm and polite refusal communicates confidence because it shows that your self-worth does not depend on everyone agreeing with your choices. Those who truly value you will understand. Those who become angry often reveal that they benefited more from your lack of boundaries than from your friendship. Another important principle is refusing to negotiate your core values. Every individual eventually encounters situations where compromise appears easier than standing firm. Someone may encourage dishonesty for personal gain. Others may pressure you to remain silent when something is clearly wrong. You may even face situations where popularity conflicts with integrity. These moments define your reputation. Respect is built when your actions consistently reflect your principles, even when doing so carries personal cost. People may disagree with your decisions, but they often admire the courage required to remain faithful to your values. Boundaries also protect your emotional energy. Every conversation, commitment, and relationship requires attention. Without limits, your mental resources become scattered across countless obligations that contribute little to your growth. Constant exhaustion often comes from trying to satisfy everyone instead of focusing on what truly matters. Emotionally disciplined individuals recognize that time and energy are valuable resources. They invest them intentionally rather than distributing them wherever demands appear. This selectiveness increases their effectiveness while reinforcing the perception that their attention has value. Many individuals attempt to gain respect by arguing with everyone who disagrees with them. This strategy almost always fails. You do not need to defend every opinion or respond to every criticism. Some people seek debate not to discover truth, but to provoke emotional reactions. Choosing not to engage is often a stronger demonstration of confidence than winning an argument. Silence can establish a boundary just as effectively as words. It communicates that your peace is more valuable than unnecessary conflict. Consistency is essential when establishing boundaries. If you refuse disrespect one day but tolerate it the next, people become confused about your standards. Inconsistent behavior encourages others to continue testing your limits because they hope the outcome will change. Clear and consistent responses eliminate uncertainty. Over time, people stop questioning boundaries that are enforced calmly and reliably. Respect grows because others recognize that your standards are not temporary emotions, but permanent principles. Perhaps the most important boundary exists within your own mind. It is the decision that your value will not rise or fall according to praise, criticism, popularity, or rejection. External opinions are constantly changing. If your confidence depends on them, your identity will always remain unstable. Self-respect begins when you refuse to let temporary judgments determine permanent beliefs about yourself. Once this inner boundary is established, every external boundary becomes easier to maintain. People who command genuine respect rarely demand it through force, intimidation, or endless explanations. Instead, they quietly demonstrate through their actions that they know who they are, what they value, and what they will never compromise. Their boundaries are not walls built out of anger, but expressions of self-respect. Others recognize these standards because they are reinforced consistently, calmly, and without apology. In time, those same boundaries become the foundation upon which lasting trust, credibility, and respect are built. There is a form of confidence that announces itself with loud words, constant self-promotion, and an endless need to prove superiority. Then there is another kind of confidence that says almost nothing, yet commands the attention of everyone in the room. Robert Greene often points toward this quieter form of power because it is rooted in certainty rather than performance. People who possess genuine confidence do not feel compelled to dominate every conversation or seek validation from every person they meet. Their calm presence alone creates an impression of strength. This is why quiet confidence, combined with the strategic use of silence, earns respect far more effectively than endless talking. Most people fear silence because they associate it with awkwardness or weakness. The moment a pause appears in a conversation, they rush to fill it with unnecessary words. They explain themselves repeatedly, reveal information that was never requested, or speak simply to avoid discomfort. In doing so, they often weaken their own position. The person who is comfortable with silence sends a completely different psychological message. They communicate that they are not nervous, not desperate for approval, and not afraid of being judged. This emotional security naturally attracts respect. Strategic silence is not about refusing to communicate. It is about knowing when words will add value and when they will reduce it. Every sentence should have a purpose. When you speak less but with greater intention, people begin paying closer attention because they understand that your words carry meaning. Scarcity increases value in many areas of life, and communication is no exception. Someone who constantly talks eventually becomes background noise. Someone who speaks thoughtfully becomes memorable. Quiet confidence is also reflected in the way you respond to criticism and conflict. Many individuals feel an immediate need to defend themselves whenever questioned. They interrupt, argue, and try desperately to convince everyone they are right. A confident person understands that not every accusation deserves an answer. Sometimes silence is more powerful than explanation because it demonstrates that your self-worth does not depend on winning every argument. Remaining composed while others lose emotional control immediately shifts the balance of respect in your favor. Observation is another advantage of speaking less. While others compete for attention, you gain information. You notice patterns in behavior, hidden motives, changing emotions, and unspoken dynamics that loud people often miss. This awareness allows you to make better decisions and respond with greater precision. The person who observes before acting usually possesses a deeper understanding of situations than the person who reacts immediately. True influence does not come from having the loudest voice. It comes from having the strongest presence. Quiet confidence, emotional stability, and the disciplined use of silence create an image of self-control that people instinctively admire. When others realize you are comfortable with yourself, unshaken by pressure, and intentional with every word you choose, they begin to respect you, not because you demanded their attention, but because your calm strength made it impossible to ignore. Respect cannot be sustained by appearance, charm, or persuasive words alone. These qualities may capture attention for a moment, but lasting respect comes from becoming someone who consistently provides value. Robert Greene often emphasizes that true power belongs to those who possess abilities that others need but cannot easily replace. When your knowledge, discipline, creativity, or reliability solve problems that few others can solve, people begin to treat you differently. They recognize that your presence has significance, and respect naturally follows. Many people spend years trying to impress others instead of improving themselves. They focus on looking successful rather than becoming valuable. They chase recognition before earning it. This approach creates temporary admiration at best, but it rarely creates genuine respect. The individual who quietly develops rare skills, expands knowledge, and consistently delivers results, builds influence without demanding attention. Their work becomes their reputation, and their reputation speaks louder than self-promotion ever could. Every day presents an opportunity to increase your value. Read books that expand your thinking, practice skills that improve your performance, and seek experiences that strengthen your judgment. Small improvements made consistently create remarkable results over time. While others waste energy comparing themselves with everyone around them, you can invest that same energy into becoming more capable. The more competent you become, the less you need to convince people of your worth because your actions provide all the evidence they require. Real ability is another powerful source of respect. Many people make promises with enthusiasm but fail to fulfill them. Eventually, their words lose meaning because others no longer trust their commitments. A respected individual understands that every promise carries weight. They arrive on time, complete responsibilities, and remain dependable even when circumstances become difficult. Consistency creates confidence in others, and confidence becomes the foundation of respect. The greatest form of influence comes from becoming someone whose presence improves every environment they enter. When people know they can rely on your character, your competence, and your integrity, respect is no longer something you pursue. It becomes the natural response to the value you bring wherever you go. Instant respect may capture attention, but lasting respect is built through reputation. Robert Greene frequently explains that reputation is one of the most valuable forms of power because it speaks for you before you even enter a room. People often decide how to treat someone based on what they have consistently observed over time. A strong reputation cannot be created with a single impressive moment. It is the result of repeated actions that prove your character, discipline, and reliability. Every decision you make either strengthens or weakens the image people carry of you. Many individuals focus too much on managing opinions in the present while ignoring the long-term impact of their behavior. They may act differently depending on who is watching or change their values to gain temporary approval. Such inconsistency eventually becomes visible. People begin to question whether they can trust someone whose principles shift with every situation. Trust is fragile, and once it is damaged, respect becomes difficult to recover. This is why consistency is far more valuable than occasional brilliance. A respected reputation is built through habits that rarely receive applause. It is built by keeping your word even when no one reminds you. It is built by remaining honest when dishonesty would be easier. It is built by treating people with fairness regardless of their status or influence. These quiet actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but together they shape how others remember you. Over time, your character becomes your introduction. Another important principle is protecting your reputation from unnecessary conflict. You do not need to respond to every insult, rumor, or criticism. Some people deliberately create drama because they seek attention. If you allow yourself to be drawn into every argument, your image becomes associated with conflict rather than composure. Wise individuals choose their battles carefully. They defend their principles when necessary, but they refuse to waste energy on meaningless disputes that damage their credibility. Patience is essential because reputation develops slowly. You cannot force people to trust you overnight. Every positive interaction becomes another brick in the foundation of your character. As months and years pass, people begin to recognize patterns. They notice that you remain dependable under pressure, respectful in disagreement, disciplined in your work, and confident without arrogance. Eventually, your name alone begins to represent these qualities. At that point, respect is no longer dependent on first impressions or persuasive words. It is earned through the consistent record of who you have proven yourself to be, and that kind of respect is far more powerful than anything that can be demanded or borrowed.